Welcome, everyone. My name is Anita Thompson, and it is my pleasure to teach you this evening. We are here for the heart-shaped candy box, right in line with Valentine's. Whether you celebrate or not, it's a fun watercolor. It's a rather quick drawing, but we're going to talk a little bit about perspective. And also, there's not a whole lot of colors, as you can see in this. We basically use red, we use blue, ironically enough, because our purple is going to be the bluish and the red kind of make a dark purple, and that's going to be our shading. And we use some brown. So let's get started and welcome everyone that just came on. I saw Tammy come on. Hello, thank you. I saw Tony earlier. So many people. Joan, um, John Paul, Kathy, Ani, Debbie. Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna get started with the drawing. So basically, let me fix my thing here a bit. And we're going to be using it in landscape mode. So this is portrait mode in case you didn't know. And then this is landscape mode. So it's going to be a bit longer. I'm going to move this to the side here. And we're going to start off with our drawing. So just a reminder that you want to draw lightly because with watercolor, you don't really want the pencil to show. I mean, sometimes you do. And it's not terrible if it doesn't, but I always suggest going lighter. Let me move up a little bit here. Okay. There we go. Sorry about all my fussing. Um my gooseneck stand fell off my little table I have here, and for some reason I didn't get it exactly how I had it before, so I still have to fuss with it. But anyway, all right, so we're going to draw the heart shape first of the box. And so we want to make sure that we still have room for the ribbon as well. So we're going to go in the middle. If you can think about it like, like right here, almost like we have these two, 3 to 4, about 3-inch margins. We're going to come down in the middle and from the top, and we're going to make a big heart. So we start off with the round areas. Now your heart isn't going to be taking up the whole page, but it's big. It's a big heart. Let me make sure everybody can see that. It is a little light. I'm going to make it a little darker so you can see it on Zoom. But again, yours will be lighter. Okay. Now we're going to talk perspective once we make our heart. So we want to make sure that we're going to be able to see depth in this. So we're going to go outside, and the first spot that we're going to go to is the pointed spot right here. And we're going to make a line like this. And yes, the line is not straight. It is curved a bit, or I should say slanted, really slanted a little to the left. The reason for that is because we are going to be making the bottom portion of it. And so we're going to start here, and we're going to follow the shape of our heart. But you can see that we're away from it. We're going to curve a little bit as we come up to the part where we're then going to make the side of the bottom of the box. So you may have to, fuss with that a little bit, but there is the bottom of your box, and you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Or I'm sorry, it's not the bottom, it's the side of the box. I don't know what I was thinking. And so here too, I went out a little too far with my bottom line because your side lines should be coming almost curving downward. Even this one I can fix a little bit as far as perspective. Um, one of the other um, one of the other programs I'm going to be offering to the libraries is talking about basic things like perspective. Um, so we shall see. So this is a candy box. And if you want to make it a little thicker, you can just bring down your line a bit. I'm looking at mine and I really did make it a bit thicker on the bottom. So no worries. I'm going to bring down my line. And then it's always going to match up with right over here. And you want to keep that heart shape. Right? I'm going to do the same here. I actually kind of liked the angle it was at on the left. Okay. Just fixing my kind of circular parts. And I'm going to bring this up just a little bit. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Just a little bit, kind of a little bit thicker. Okay, so now we're going to start adding our candies inside. But before we do that, oh, somebody coming in. Before we do that, we're going to create the outside portions of where um, the crinkled things, what am I trying to say? The crinkled things that hold the candy. Oh, welcome, Marshall. I'm just gonna recopy the supplies in the chat. We have just started drawing and we're recording. So I also meant to say for anyone that's new, and if you have any questions, you can put those in the chat. I'm always looking at the chat. Okay. All right, so we're going to start up on the left top part of the heart here, and we're going to kind of make like a jagged line. This is going to be the top portion of some of the paper, right? That's holding our candy in. And we're going to start making individual crinkled areas for each candy. So, and you're going to kind of make it circular, right? So I have one happening here. And it just depends where you want your candies. I have another candy that is a heart that you can see a little bit of. I actually have to fix this part here. And again, because of the perspective, we can see a little bit of the top portion of it. Lisa, I just saw your picture change. It's so cute, the two doves. Beautiful. Okay, so you can see that that's a little more in perspective. I'm going to go in a bit closer now. So basically what we're doing is we are designing our candy box. So here's another piece of candy, making it a little bit more roundish. And once I decide, what shape I want it to do, I'm going to put that sort of jagged edge around it. And then I'm literally going to start creating the shape for it. And also this one, I can see the bottom part of it, so I make it round. But we have some jagged part also even around it, like so. And so you're going to continue creating candy shapes all around. I have another heart over here. You can make them, you can make them partially showing, which is nice. This one is partially showing as well. You can see the bottom portion of it. And again, I like to then draw the part of the candy, or the part that's sort of sticking up. And then remembering to draw the lines. Kind of like the cupcake holders. And let's see, I've got one over here that is more like an oval. You just see the top of it. And there again, you're going to make the crinkled part. Like so. And I have another heart up here. So again, you don't have to make as many hearts. You can make them more kind of ovalish, right? If you make them on the side, where some of the side is showing, you can see here that, creating the side part of it because you can still see it. And then I have another piece of paper here, crinkled kind of paper. This is a really fun drawing for kids too. You can make it less complicated. It's always kind of fun to see what they come up with. And then in this section, I'm going to draw a little bit more of a round candy. I'm missing one. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Oh, yeah. I thought I was missing one. There is one more here. And so the fun part about this is you can just have candies kind of sticking up. And the other thing is if you get confused by the paper outside of it, think about pretty much here's your candy. And it's kind of almost like a muffin shape. Right? So this is your candy sticking out of it. And if I were to draw on top my paper, it would kind of be like this. And then you might see a little bit more paper behind it, like that. And then I erase the lines. And then you can make the lines that, because it's crinkled. So there's that shape. So I just wanted to kind of show you that, if that's helpful. And then, if it's laying down a little more, right? Here's some of the top of the candy. And then you would see more of that crinkled shape. But it goes around, right? It goes around the candy. So almost like this is another oval. I don't know if this is helpful. These are the parts that are folded, right? And here's your candy. And then I like to leave a bit of space over here inside the candy box. And then we have to draw our second part. And also our ribbon. The other thing that we can draw very lightly is the shadow around the bottom right side of your candy box. So I'm just going to very lightly draw that for you. And then I'm going to erase my little drawing here, my little tutorial. I'll leave that one in case anybody needs it. But now we're going to draw the box top of the heart.
Could you slow down a minute?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. I should erase this better anyway. Okay. Basically, the other heart, the top of the box, is going to be tilted this way. And so we're going to start off in the upper right corner, towards the upper right corner, with the top portion of the heart, right? The round part, or round parts, I should say, right? And that's going to disappear behind the box here. And then also here. So you're making the top portion of the heart. This is the top of the candy box. And when you're ready, you're also going to make the side of the box on the left side of the heart. So that will look like this. It will trace basically the shape of the heart. I'm going to make my lid a little bit thicker. So again, to make it a little thicker, you make this line a little bit straight down, or curving a little bit, I should say. Let me move my camera here to get a little closer. Because now we're going to make our ribbon. So most of this is really the drawing part of it. I mean, obviously we do a little bit with the watercolor as well, but it's getting the perspective right, all those things. Okay, so I'm going to come back here and we're going to draw the ribbon. So, and if you want your ribbon to look a little different, you can do that. But I'm going to start curving my ribbon like so. Okay, so there's the first shape of the ribbon over here. This one I have a little bit closer to the box, so I'm actually going to fix this. I like the perspective on that better. So again, it's kind of curving toward the edge of the box there. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to make it three-dimensional. So it's going to curve, right? It's turning, basically, which is why you don't see the entire side. And then this part is going to go up as your ribbon goes up. And then you can actually make a curve right here where your ribbon is going up. And then you're just going to have to fix this one part. So that basically this part of the ribbon looks like it's curling upwards. I'm going to make this darker. So see, this is the back side of the ribbon curving upward. All right, are we ready for the big one? The ribbon, along with the bow. So I am going to erase this one part. Actually, I'll just work around it. So with this ribbon, we're going to curve it around, right, towards the upper right corner. And we're going to draw first this section. So there's a curve, and we're stopping here. And now it's going to curve outward again, and then it's going to meet up over here. And you're still going to have that curve. But now this is also curving around. And so we're going to make both lines. This is curving around. And then we're going to make our bow. And so you can think of it almost like when you were a kid, and you drew a bow. So we're going to kind of make it look like almost like an airplane propeller. Those are the openings to your bow. And then you're going to make your bow underneath like so. So we always start off with the openings. And you're probably thinking, well, this one is a little bit thicker. It's all right, we'll get there. We're looking at the basic shape, and then we can now play with it. So I want to close this loop a little bit. So I'm going to erase this, and this is why we draw lightly. And I'm going to close it, but I'm also going to curve like this. So now it looks a little more realistic. And then the last part, I'm going to make a curve like this because it now looks like the ribbon is curling around, and here's the other side of it. And so we're going to do the same thing to the other side. And I challenge you, if you have a ribbon at home, a piece of, ribbon, you can set it up and draw it from, this angle. You can lay it out. It's a good way to get to learn how to draw. All right, so we're going to come back over here. Remember, and I want to make this a little bit thicker. So I erased my line, and now I just made the center part a little bit smaller, and then I'm going to loop it around because I want to make the underside of it. And now it looks a little more realistic. Now you can do something like this, make it kind of go, kind of like curve a little. Now I'm making this very, very dark so you can see it. And then in the middle, maybe I want to make it a bit like this. And then we're finally going to make the other portion, the other string. And that's going to curve too. And I have mine curved out towards the corner. All right, so I'm going to flip the end back. So again, I kind of make like an S shape. And then make the other side, and I want it to curve, like flip under. So make it small here, and then I'm going to make it flip again. Every time it kind of flips sides, the ribbon turns, and you kind of see the other side. And then I made this other side a bit more three-dimensional. And voila, we have a ribbon. Now you want to lighten up your lines. You want to make everything so that, you like the way it looks. But then when you're ready, you want to lighten up your lines, which just means taking your eraser and just, erasing the lines a little bit so that they're a little lighter. Just enough so you can see them. And we're going to start off with the outside of our heart, first with the candy box lid on the left side. And so we're going to be using our red. And I'm going to quickly wash off I forgot to kind of wash off my, my plastic parts here. So you want to be able to use, if you have a lid like this, You
What do
want to
you
make,
think?
oh, let's see. Oh, wow. Beautiful. That is an excellent drawing, John Paul. You should be proud of yourself. I'm proud of you. I think it's so fun to draw things in perspective. Okay, so I'm just wiping off. I now have a clean area so that we can mix our paint. But we're going to start off with the red, pure red. And you want to put it in this section and kind of water it down, right? Because it's going to make it look pink by doing that. You know, if you have a basic set, like the Crayola, like what I'm, creating the tutorial with, you can just use red and lighten it and make it pink. And so we're going to go inside and we're thinking about the darker parts. First of all, the darker part is here. And then it gets lighter as we get toward the candy box. So we add our water. So I keep adding water. And you see how I'm pushing the water that's, already on the page. And I'm acting as if my brush is a pencil, almost like I'm very lightly shading. And my water I use as sort of my eraser, if you will. So see how I did that? I just pushed, I push it along. And now it's going to get darker, but I want to do the lighter parts first, and we're going to do that with the ribbon on the left side. So again, this is also just using the red. With this part, I'm going to leave the tip of it without color for now. So basically we're doing the first part, the candy box, the lid of the candy box, and the side as well, which is a little darker. It's actually going to be a lot darker, but I'm adding the first layer on. It's always best to go lighter in watercolor because it's harder to remove it. I mean, you can use water to remove it, but it's just easier to go lighter, I find. Again, I'm not a watercolor artist per se. It's just what I've picked up along the way of doing it. So we're also going to be doing the outside of the box as well. And again, everything's sort of pink right now. You can leave spots that are a little bit lighter. For instance, on this other side of the box, I'm actually going to leave a spot that I don't paint in. So see what I did there? I kind of made a sort of like a box around it. I know that it's going to get darker right in the corners here along the edge. So I push the paint along, then I wet my brush again, and I very lightly just make that part a little lighter. So basically the first part that we're doing is we're putting down sort of a light pink color for the candy boxes and then also for the ribbon. Now there's another light part over here. So again, I'm going to skip space for now. As you can see, I kind of leave some spaces of the white of the paper in the lighter areas. I also like to leave a little bit of some white space where I think there might be a little bit of a highlight. I kind of use, strokes like a pencil. Okay, I always say that I do watercolor like I'm using a colored pencil. I don't know if that makes sense. Um, I am mainly a watercolor artist. That was my main medium in college. So I kind of approach things a bit like that, um, in the sense of when it comes to shading, but it has to be adjusted when you're using watercolor. We do want to add some light shading to the inside of the candy box on the right side, again with some pink. Pink meaning, as I mentioned, the light version of using the red, the watered down version of using the red. And we're going to get into using some purple for the shading, or the shadow, I should say, once we do that, but I'll wait for everyone to catch up. Ooh, John Paul, that looks great. Yeah, see, you know what you're doing. You're starting to put the red on where it's brighter or, more concentrated. Very cool. So we're going to mix up a little bit of some purple for the shadow. So you're going to wet your purple and you're going to put it into your palette here so that it is watered down, so that it's going to be more like a very watered down lavender. See that? And that's going to be your first version of your shadow underneath your candy box. So you're just going to fill in that space. And here again, I like to remove my pencil mark, especially around where the shadow is, because it really wouldn't have a pencil line around it. You can still remove the pencil once the watercolor is dry, but I just quickly lightened it up along the edge using my pencil. Using my pencil eraser, I should say. Have to be careful before it dries though, if not it'll smudge. Now, once you do that, you're going to take some blue and you're going to mix it in with the purple so that you get more of sort of this darker purple. It's hard to see, but I'm going to add it to here. And basically, you're going to make a shadow within a shadow. So it's going to be a little bit darker right around the edge or right up against the edge of your candy box. So you see what that just did? Just by doing that. And then I like to add a little bit of water and move that color very lightly into the rest of the shadow. But it's a lightened version of it. You see the darker part is right up against your candy box. I'm going to add a little more here. While it's wet. It's just moving along, moving the water along. And then we're going to start to get darker with our red in all these spots when you're ready. Give you a little time. So the other thing is at this point, now that we've started to create the first layer of our watercolor, if you have your pencil and it's showing on your watercolor paper, you can now kind of go in and do a little bit of erasing of that pencil or lightening it up. I'm going to do that just because mine is so dark. Some of it may not come up, but most of it will. You do want to make sure that your watercolor is dry. And it should be, you know, the red part. I'm using a kneaded eraser to do that. Looks like this. You can buy them at Michael's. You can order them from Amazon. I love them. They're great to play with and they're great to erase with. The great thing about them is they don't make any of the uh, sort of eraser crumbs, as I call them, from the pink erasers, but pink eraser is just fine as well. Okay. All right, so we're going to go back in now with red. So we're going to get darker with our red. Add some more. I like to still add it to my palette here. But then I'm going to start kind of outlining the curved part. Dip in some water. And now here again, I'm going to push that color so that I'm shading with it. right? I added a little bit of water. Now I'm going to add a little more. And I'm pulling that color. It's already on there, and you see it's already making a gradient. I just put a little bit of the tip in, the tip of the brush in the water. And then I'm moving it, moving that color down. I'm going to add some more. And the way I did it was I started to kind of make a curve of darker color. I'm going to fill it in. And I'm going to do the same thing up here, but it's a little bit lighter up here. So see, I keep dipping my brush in water and then onto the paper and pulling the color. It's already on there. And then I add more as I need it. And I want to make a gradient. So again, I'm adding some color and then water to make it a little lighter. And this whole area is a little lighter, so I keep adding water and pushing it into the other parts that already have color. And then I try to make them fade a little bit so that it's an even gradient. I just keep moving the tip of my brush around with the water. Where the edge of the darker area meets the lighter area. See, I'm pushing it into the lighter area. It's really fun once you start to get the hang of it. It definitely takes practice. And that's how we're going to create the darker areas of the heart. So I'm going to add a little more dark up here again. And I like to outline in the red. So I actually take the tip of my brush, put it full force in the red, and outline. I also like to make it a little bit thicker because you would see a little bit of the side of the candy box, and that kind of illustrates that by doing it. Now I'm going to turn my painting upside down because this is still wet, but I want to outline it. And we're going to outline the side of the box. So see, it's only using we're only going to be using a few colors, but it's all in how you use the watercolor. Everything is outlined. So if you want to go ahead and sort of outline your ribbon, you can do that too. I'm going to kind of go ahead and do that. I mean, we'll be going back and making parts darker, but you can absolutely go ahead and outline now that we have added the pink to the ribbon. You can go outline so that it looks nice and neat. So we're now going to outline all the areas that we did in the pink. So that means the candy box. And just take your time. And you're also outlining, the rest of the ribbon over here on the right. So I keep dipping in my brush, the point in the red. With the ribbon, you can go on the inside, right, and make some darker lines. You see what I've done here? Um, I think this one is sort of relaxing. I hope you find that too. Again, we're just tracing. Outlining. So that then we just have to go back and make it look a bit more realistic by adding in the gradients and the shading. And then, after you're done, you're also going to take your black and go on the inside of each candy wrapper. Candy wrapper is kind of what I was looking for. And you're going to also outline your serrated part, and you're going to make those little lines behind and in front of the candy. We haven't done the candy yet, but we're going to make the line work. So mine looks a little bit more gray. So you can, slightly water it down if you want. You can also choose to make yours a bit more brown if you want to do that as well. I chose gray because I thought that it would give it a little more pop of color, since most of our candies are chocolate. But you can also decide not to make your candies as chocolate either. I don't know, I guess some of them are chocolate. I have some red with vanilla as well. A lot of detailed work in this one. I can't wait to see how these all come out. And then, you can also take some of that gray and add a little bit of some shading to some of the underside of the candy wrappers. So that would be, towards the back. You can also add a little bit of shading on the side of each section. See how I'm, putting it a little bit lighter next to each portion that is the line. So you can do that too. And that's with the, gray, a little bit lighter. And when you're ready, we're going to go inside a minute where the candy boxes are. And you're going to start to make your candy before we finish up with the outside of the boxes. So again, I make my candy with brown and red, and I make it a little darker around the side, like for instance of this heart here. And then I do just like what I did here for the candy box. I add a bit of the water and push it around to make sections of it light. And in this one in particular, I want to make it look like it's sort of like almost nutty. So I use light watercolor and kind of make it look like it's bumpy. That's this one right here. And then I'll go back and make it a little darker. Um, I also use a little bit of some yellow and brown for this one that I'm going to kind of curve around. So I'm going to act like, you know, kind of going to do a swirl on the top. And then a little bit of shading on the side. Here's another heart. And I kind of see the side of, just like we did with the candy box here. And I'm going to make some kind of little swirls on the top of it. And I'm going to add a little bit of red too in the brown. So you can kind of make it fun. But you also want to make it look, a little more realistic. So making the shading and the sides of each candy is very helpful. This one I'm going to make striped. But again, make it light striped on the one side. Go back in with some darker shading on the candy. Candy would be, a little bit darker too around the edge, right up where it's against the sort of candy wrapper. And you do want to make the inside of the box a little bit shaded, kind of back here in this section. I kind of make some light shaded strokes going up and down. Again, using the point of my brush. We are going to add a little bit of some blue on the inside as well. And now it's just kind of fine tuning everything. So when you're ready, you're going to be adding a little bit darker red now around the outside of the candy box lid. And we're going to be adding blue on top of that to make it really dark. But first, adding a layer of the red. And with the ribbons, it's always darker when it's kind of coming from underneath the candy box here. So what I do is I make some kind of like strokes, and then I make some where it starts to turn. It's darker there too. Everywhere it turns, it's a bit darker. I use the point a lot, the point of the brush. And around the side of the candy box, I make a very light line, or actually, I shouldn't say it. It's not a light line, it's a darker line, kind of decorative on both sides around the edge of the outside where the candy is. So you see how I just made that line, and then from there, I'm going to make the shading in each corner, in all the corners of where the box is meeting. Make it a little darker. And again, I just use, kind of like dark strokes, and then I can go back and I can blend it a little bit using water. Dip in some water here. We're now working and on all of the darker areas of the ribbons and the box, the candy box. It would also be darker on where the inside of the ribbon is as it's curling. As the ribbon's curling around a little bit on the underside here. Oh, wow, John Paul, that looks beautiful. Oh my goodness. Look at that shading. That shading's so much fun. I think I said that already. I really like shading. And then again, you take your water and you can, blend some of the spaces that are a little more lighter. Again, blending it to make it more of a little bit of a gradient. Or to soften up your lines. And then we're finally going to be adding some blue and red mixed together. So you're probably thinking, well, that's purple. But um, by mixing with our blue and red, it gets a little bit darker of a purple than the purple in our palette here. And basically that blue and red, it's going to be the purple. You're going to take and create a little bit darker shading on top of the red in certain areas. I like to put it on the candy box in the corners. And a little bit on the inside of the candy box on the left side. Basically, it's where the darkest areas are. And then, you can use a little bit of water to kind of push it a little bit into the candy box. And there's some on the candy box lid on the side of the lid. That's pretty much where this purple is, in those two areas. Three areas, really. The one inside the box as well. I can't wait to see what these look like. And again, you can add a little more red in areas where you want to darken it a little bit. Like right here, I'm just going to add a little more red. And going to outline a little here. Add a little more concentrated red. Oops. And a little more here. Again, if you want to outline anything one more time, you can do that again with the red to make it a little darker. It's so easy to just keep adding to it, right? Just add more dark over here. Okay, I am going to remove my spotlight. And I'm also going to stop the recording.